Hey, well, it's time for another ERI update video. I actually missed last month. I'm sorry about that. It's just been really busy getting ready for kind of a big push into the end of the year. And so just want to catch you up on a few things that are going on. I am in Fresno right now. I know it's not quite as pretty as, the forest outside of Colorado Springs like I got to do a couple of months ago, but still prettier than my office. So I thought I'll take this opportunity to shoot this video with something at least remotely interesting in the background. So I'm at a park in Fresno. I'm here support raising for about a week. I'm talking to some of our really consistent donors and getting a chance to thank them and kind of update them on what's going on, including some of the things I'll talk about in this video, and also meeting with some potential new donors. And so it's been a really good thing. I've got, I think if I've got the count right, 13 meetings this week, and then and as well as one event. And so it's a very, very busy week. The first full day I was here, I had 5 meetings. And so it's been kind of a whirlwind, but it's been really fun to be back in Fresno, seeing some of my dear friends. It's the first time I've been back in a year and a half, and so that's why I'm here. So here's a few of the things that are going on. One of the things that I've been doing is booking some talks that I'm going to be giving. I don't think I've got all of them memorized like off the top of my head, but I know I'm speaking in Canada. Again, it'll be my third Canada kind of little speaking tour. Usually what happens when I go to Canada, I'll fly into Toronto and then go to a city where a diocese or a pro-life group has set up for me to speak at a bunch of like Catholic high schools, maybe some Christian high schools, and some other events. And so I know that I'm getting booked to do a bunch of schools and an event, so I'll be going to Canada again. I'm looking forward to that. And the coolest thing, and we've just been waiting to make sure that it's confirmed before announcing it, but I'm also going to be speaking in Denmark this next spring. And there's a really, really cool group, pro-life group in Denmark, where it is a very, very pro-choice place. And there's kind of this like, almost it feels like underground pro-life group there. It's not really underground. They sometimes do these events and they'll get a pretty cool splash going, but they got really excited about ERI and our course, and so I'm going to be going in to do some seminars and just some speaking and hopefully encouraging the pro-life people there that are just in a really tough place to be pro-life in, and giving them kind of our best tips for how to be as effective as possible in Denmark. So I'll be doing that. I know we've booked some other places, and I don't remember them off the top of my head because Canada and Denmark are just like the ones that just stand out of my. I know I'm speaking at the Students for Life Conference in a month. I'll be speaking at the DC one, and then I'll have a booth at the San Francisco one too. It's just Students for Life is changing up the schedule. And there's not enough room for a lot of workshops in the San Francisco venue as there are in the DC one, so I won't speak at the San Francisco one this time because I spoke there last time. But I'll have a booth, so if you're going to be in San Francisco, either for the March or for the Students for Life Conference, I'll have booths at both of those things. Would love to meet you and say hi. One of the things a lot of you know is that I did, just about a month ago, or a little bit more than a month ago, a fantastic ProLife conference with David B. Wright, where I gave a keynote on pro-life apologetics and practical dialogue tips, and then David B. Wright, for those of you who don't know, I can imagine pro-life people not knowing who David B. Wright is, but he started 40 Days for Life, and has just been one of my best friends in the pro-life movement. I dearly love this man, and his heart, and he's just fantastic at what he does. He's not just like a good guy, he really is. But he's also really, really skilled and has a lot of experience. And his skill, what he's like best at is an area that's different than mine. Our area of expertise is in one-on-one dialogues, and David's expertise in how do you get a bunch of pro-life people in an area coordinated and working together and getting great things done. And so he gave a keynote on how to try to figure out what is, the kind of the lane in the pro-life movement that you ought to be in, and how to actually get active. And not just caring about abortion, but how can you do something? How can you save lives? And then we both got to sit on a panel discussion together with 2 other people. There was one of the staff from Students for Life, Michelle Hendrickson, who's just a lovely person. And then there was the director from the local Pregnancy Resource Center, who was just a fantastic director. And just really enjoyed it. It's like we're all just totally on the same page on all these things. And so then we got to do a kind of a discussion panel where there was a moderator who asked us a bunch of really tough and good questions, and then they opened it up for Q&A for a while from the audience. And I have permission to release all of the audio from that event on the ERI podcast feed. So it's not all edit. So I brought I brought good recording equipment, not like the not like the audio from Stonebridge that I released recently, which we knew, and I've already talked about, it was not very good audio, but we released it just for the people that want to hear the Q&A audio. I've got a second Q&A audio from Stonebridge that's better recorded, and that will be releasing soon. But we also brought really good recording equipment to this conference. So once I have all of that audio, we're going to release all of that. I'll just release all of that conference audio on the same day on our podcast feed. So if you haven't subscribed to the Equal Rights Institute podcast, you should totally do that. What else? We have a really cool new volunteer I just want to brag on just for a minute. We've had some just great help from volunteers lately. I've already ranted and raved about our awesome intern, Megan, but there's this new guy named Matt Dula who reached out and wanted to get involved. And he kind of Googled all the pro-life organizations, and we turned out in his case to be his favorite, and reached out and said, I'm a freelance photographer and sometimes I'm in between jobs with a whole lot of time on my hands. I'd love to help in any ways that I can help. So I got in touch with him, and he's awesome, and found out he's got a pretty large skill set, including some skills that would be really helpful to me. And sometimes like he's got a whole week that he can offer to volunteer for us, like in between jobs. Which is amazing. And so he's been doing a bunch of audio editing. In fact, he's doing the editing for the David B. Wright Conference. He's been doing the editing for our Stonebridge Q&As that I'll be releasing. And then he also does the first editing pass on our course podcast. This is the podcast that if you get the Equip for Life course, every other week we release like an hour to hour and a half long roundtable discussion. And those are pretty hard to edit. We work really hard on those. And so he does the first of 3 editing passes on that. And that has just really helped take a lot of the editing work off of Tim and my hands. And so that's been really fantastic. I'm interviewing 2 potential staff on Friday. I'm getting back to the office on Tuesday, and on Friday I'll be interviewing hopefully 2 future ERI staff people. So I'm not going to talk a lot about like the details there, because I'm interviewing a lot of executive assistants right now, obviously, and only one of them is going to get hired. But so one of them is interviewing for that, and then I've got another person interviewing for a different role, and we'll see. I really hope that works out. I got that stat wrong on this trip. I'm doing 16 meetings, not 13, and 1 event planned for this trip. And then the last thing I've got on here was just kind of talking through some of the statistics. Like, I don't get into ERI statistics a lot. There's some people that I feel like sometimes spend too much time poring over every single analytic that they can get from their websites and all the different things. And it's like, I feel like there's a balance here. You don't want to completely ignore it, because if you ignore it, you don't know how you're doing, you don't know whether you're growing, you don't know maybe what areas to grow in. But then if you spend a half a day every week gathering all the statistics from every different website back end page and looking them over and put them in a spreadsheet, then you're spending too much time on it. Like, it's not a very good return on investment. And so I tend to spend a bit of time, about basically quarterly, is I'll pull all of our statistics and get a sense of where we're growing, where we could use more growth, and things like that. And so I pulled statistics recently to write our fundraising letter, which by the time this goes out, you'll probably be receiving right around now. If you're on our mailing list, if you're not on the mailing list and you want to be, email info@equalrightsinstitute.com. We'd be happy to stick your address on the list. So I'm just going to brag about ERI for a couple of minutes, but just here's some of the stats. Here's some of the things, like basically looking at the last year at what's been going on. It's really encouraging, because basically everything that we measure, every measurable thing, is up and to the right. Meaning it's growing and going in the right direction. So I did a lot of them, but we gave collectively 25 speeches in 2017 to 4,000 people. Our blog, this year we've got really consistent on the blog. Every other Friday, just about all year, we've released a new article. And we've been really consistent with the podcast too. So new audio blogs or live Q&A audios are going up every Monday. The course podcast every other Wednesday. So just being really consistent has definitely helped. It's one of the things that people who do blogs know. It's one of the best ways to grow is just to show that you're consistent, you're trustworthy, you're professional. And so in the last year, we've had over 35,000 people read, and this is like unique people. It's not just like counting visits, like the people who read like every article. It just counts them one. Unique people, over 35,000 people in the last year, and that's actually growth. That's actually over the 69% growth over 2016. Our blog has had almost 70% growth in readers in the last year. So that's huge growth. A lot of times, like you're doing well if you're growing by 10, 20%, something like that. And our blog has done really, really well this year. The podcast is kind of hard to measure growth because we haven't been doing them as long. Like we only added the second podcast this year, like right around summer. So I don't have like growth statistics on that, but we do have over 11,000 podcast downloads. So it's going pretty well. It can definitely grow, but that's going really well. And then on the course, we've got 775 people on the course right now, including over 50 groups, mostly groups of 20. I think there's 6 groups of 40 now, and so there's the course is going really well. We know that people are being helped by the course. Recently, Jacob Nels got to go and do outreach with a couple of clubs that had only been trained by the course. There's kind of this lingering question: is the course actually training people, like really equipping them to do outreach? It's a little bit hard to measure that. Like we do like post-course surveys and things like that. But we know that there is some limit to how much you learn from, people writing their own surveys, kind of doing like self-reflection surveys. They can only be so accurate. And so we're very careful, like in the way that we talk about the results of the surveys, to not kind of exaggerate. We don't want to deceive anyone with, stories or things that sound great, but only, can prove so much. But so the best evidence that we have that the Equip for Life course is really helping people, what happened in the last couple of months when Jacob Nels flew to 2 different clubs to do outreach with them who'd been trained by the course. So one was in Philadelphia and one was in North Texas to do outreach with them. And he got there, he didn't do a refresher thing. He didn't do a Q&A time. He did help them make their poll table so they could, own their stuff. Jacob's kind of perfected the art of making poll table signs so they'll be weatherproof, all those things. And so he did that for them. But then just to observe them doing outreach and see, like, how are they doing? Are they able to have these conversations really well? Talk about bodily rights arguments and personhood and utilitarianism and all these things that we teach in the course. And they did fantastic. It was so cool. And we just feel so proud of these clubs for just how well they were talking to pro-choice people. So now we have some better evidence than we did before, that if people take the course seriously, it really can train them to have great conversations about abortion. And so knowing that there's 775 people already taking the course is really encouraging to us. Certainly, my vision is much greater than that. I want to see tens of thousands of people on the course. But, typically you're going to grow incrementally. And so the course has been out for almost a year and a half now. And so we think 775 people is pretty great. And the last thing we'll talk about, I think I might have talked about this in the last update video, is we need to get into an office. We basically have tried to be, as frugal as possible. We always pay our bills, but we try not to have a ton of bills to pay. We want to, we kind of still feel like a startup. So we're bootstrapping. We're working really hard, we've all been working from home offices ever since we moved to Charlotte. We had really inexpensive office space in Fresno because we were part of this really cool kind of nonprofit co-op thing where Tim and I were able to share an office for like $400, and that was great. We didn't find anything like that in Charlotte, and so we've all been in home offices, just trying to save as much money as possible. But next month, Rachel Crawford is finally moving to Charlotte. We're so looking forward to that. It's going to be awesome. So now we're going to have a philosophy team, and then I'm hiring an executive assistant. So, you know, we've got staff all over, but our Charlotte staff is growing from 2 to 4 in the next month or two. And what that means is that affects whether or not we need an office by, well, a margin from 0 to 1 or so, or however is the best way to say that. We're going from not needing an office to really need an office, because here's what happens if we don't have an office now. Like, I've been around when, you know, Rachel comes to Charlotte every once in a while, and she'll spend, you know, a week here. We'll do outreach, we'll record a bunch of podcasts, and then she'll do some brainstorm sessions with Tim. And so I've been around where, like, you know, we'll all be in my, you know, office, and I might be working on the computer even with headphones on, listening to music or something, or to try to, you know, keep focus. But it is terribly difficult to be able to focus on and be productive at my stuff with, like, they're having a big philosophy brainstorm session going on. And then add to that an assistant whom I'm going to be needing to be communicating to a lot, which would be interrupting for them. Like, we just can't all be in one room with no walls or doors and be efficient. So I think what'll happen if we don't get an office in a couple of months is effectively Tim and Rachel will end up working in my office all the time, and I'll end up working out of coffee shops all across town, just trying to be efficient, getting the things done that I need to get done. And so just at that point, it is a terribly inefficient thing not to have an office. So I'm working with a commercial real estate guy to find a, you know, a very minimal office. We're not looking for like a super nice or large thing. I have a vision for the kind of office that I want us to be in one day. I want us to one day have like a good video studio so we can put out a lot more video and like respond to current events really quickly with quality video. And like, I've got all these things that I want us to do one day, but I know those are all one day things. For now, like at least for the next year, we just need a small office with a couple of rooms, you know, doors and walls is the most important feature of this office. So I'm working with a commercial real estate agent so we can try to find a place for that's, you know, as inexpensive as we can get it and as small as we can have, that'll basically just get us what we minimally need. But we think that the annual costs, like, so basically our fixed costs are going up. I think our annual costs are going to be right around $40,000. Which is about $3,300 a month or so. We're going to try to find something for under that, but in all likelihood, between rent and, you know, the extra utility costs and stuff that we're adding, that's probably the increase. I keep on turning around so the sun isn't right behind me. So while there's this really cool thing that happened last year where we got to where we're basically income neutral, which means that our generous monthly and quarterly donors are basically covering all of our fixed costs, which is amazing. That's the kind of thing that most nonprofits don't see ever. And when we got there after 3 years, so we're just so blessed by that. And if you're one of our donors watching this, thank you so much for helping us hit that huge goal. But basically now just our costs are going to increase a little bit. And so what I'm looking to do right now is raise $40,000 in new or increased giving, meaning I need it to come from new donors or from donors who are increasing their giving. Like if everyone stays at exactly the same amount and we don't have any new donors, then we don't have an office, because at that point we have enough to survive at, you know, doing what we've been doing. But we won't end up being in an office where we can all be working efficiently, even with 4 people in Charlotte. So we're basically going through growing pains, and it's awesome. It's an awesome problem to have, that we are attracting such high quality people. I mean, Rachel is amazing. These other people that we've been hiring lately are fantastic. It's just we need them to be able to have a place to work and work well as a team. And for some of them, they can't just be all working from home all the time. We need to be able to collaborate together, have brainstorm sessions, podcasts together, things like that. And so if you don't give, but you're kind of excited about what we're doing, I want to tell you that it would make a huge difference if you partnered with us financially. We make every dollar go far. We're very frugal, we're responsible, and we have gotten a lot done in 3.5 years. I am so proud of what we've accomplished after only 3.5 years. We are really making a difference. There's all kinds of students. I keep getting emails and talking to students, even when we go out speaking, that it's not like that's the first time they heard us. They've been following our work for years and really helped by it. we're putting out really, really good content, new ideas, things that are really helping pro-life people to have great conversations with pro-choice people. But this work only happens if it gets funded. And if you're one of our donors, I'm just so grateful to you. Thank you so much. And if you've been giving for a while, and if you have the ability to increase, I'd ask you to prayerfully consider it. I try to be very careful in the way that I talk about this. Like, I don't think that we are the only good organization worth funding. I think people should be, tithing to their church. I think people should be giving to other ministries. A lot of the donors that I've been meeting with here in Fresno, like, they give to other things too. They give to this awesome pregnancy care center that's here in Fresno. That's awesome. I don't want to get in the way of that. There's all these wonderful ministries out there to fund, but I think we are a very good one that is worth being generous to, because we are making a huge difference in this fight against abortion, and helping pro-life people to have the kinds of conversations where pro-choice people actually change their minds. We are doing that. And so I would ask you to prayerfully consider partnering with us, especially as we come toward the end of the year, when everyone is kind of thinking about where do I want to put some of this kind of extra money? What ministries do I want to fund? I'd ask you to consider us. And if you have any questions about what we're doing, I'd be happy to get on the phone with you and talk to you about that. And so, again, you could just shoot us an email at info@equalrightsinstitute.com, and I would be happy to talk to you about that. Thank you so much for your care, for your attention, for your prayers. Even if you're just praying for us, thank you for that. I'm excited. I don't know if you can tell. I don't know if you can tell on video or in audio, but I'm so excited about what's going on. God bless.